Hello guys, I am back again with a new video. So I want to make something clear to you guys, and it's about my previous video on phone number authentication using GetX. So I'm going to explain it again. So this is the phone number controller for those of you that did not understand. It extends a GetX controller. To extend a GetX controller, remember you have to put the getX library in your PubSpec file. So I have some variables here. These variables is what will be updating the UI. I have the code sent. I also have this verification ID. With these variables, you can update your UI and notify the user what is currently happening on his authentication process. So I'm going to explain what each of these variables they do, and you're going to understand it. So now I'm saying for this status string, it's gonna tell you if there is an error. It's gonna tell you there is an error. But if there is no error, it's going to show you welcome. And for the code send variable here, what it does is that it will tell you Firebase have sent you a code. So if Firebase have sent you a code, it's going to change from no to yes. But initially, there is no code sent to the user, so it is no. And the verification ID is going to tell you if the code have been sent. Okay, it would also send along a verification ID. So verification ID come along with the code sent. With this verification ID, Firebase is gonna use it and verify whatever the user input on his code text field. So the next thing here, we have some getter. So these ones are called getter method. They're actually used to return each of the variable and their responses. You see, they return whatever output is given to the variable. So this is just the get statement for the three variables we just created. So with these variables now, we can communicate with the user during the phone authentication process. So this is very simple. You have to make sure you have these three variables. The next thing, have a constructor. I'm not really a constructor. I have another method called the sign in with phone number. So with this method, you can trigger. The user would be triggered to, input your phone number. And we're also going to put an instance of Firebase Auth. So we need these two parameters here in this function to enable user sign in. So with this function, it's asynchronous. So you have the await keyword there. And with the Firebase Auth, we are calling the verified phone number. So this verified phone number, this function here, or this callback, comes along with the Firebase Auth library. So you have to have the Firebase Auth library to call this verified phone number function. So the verified phone number function comes along with some some callbacks. It has a phone number callback. It has a verification completed callback. It has a verification failed callback. So right here, the verification failed updates the status string. So now it tells you there is an error, and the code sent callback updates the code sent string, and it also updates the verification ID. So you see, this is how we update the field, or should I say the string I showed you up here. I told you 1, 2, 3. These three strings are all updated inside the verify phone number call function. So they're all updated inside here. So now you see, we also have the code auto retrieval and the timeout. So the timeout is after some seconds, return a new code. So this is very easy to understand. So it is inside this function here, we update most of our variables and we now show it to the user. So make sure you have this function. And next function here is my credential function. So you would be asking, what is the my credential function I created here? So the my credential function, what it does is that it returns the auth credential, and with this auth credential, you can sign in the user after the user phone number have been verified. So now, this is what I did in the previous video. So I'm explaining it again because some of you did not understand, and I want to make sure you understand it. So if you haven't watched the previous videos, go back and watch it. Okay, so what will I say now? I'm writing here, this takes in a user input and validates the user. So it takes in a string verification ID, and it takes in the user input. It also takes in a Firebase Auth. So when you're calling this my credential function, you're passing along with Firebase Auth. So we have the auth credential, we have the phone number provider, we pass in the verification ID, we pass in the user auth input, and also with the auth variable we also call the sign in with credentials, and we pass in the credentials. So it returns a callback, and when it returns this callback, that means the user have been signed in. That means there is no error. So we're going to say with this callback, actually it returns to you a user credential. So with this user credential, you can actually get the user, and with this user, you can actually get the UID, the identification number for the user. So let me show you. So with the user credential returned by the function, you can get the user ID, and this user ID is very important. You understand? It's very important. But for that, when the auth credential has been returned, we go to the home screen. So that was it for the phone number controller that extends the getX controller. That is all you have to do. So the next thing is that, okay, this input number. So this is the screen that appears to the user when the user is supposed or is meant to input his phone number. So the name of that screen is called the input number screen. Okay, so I'm going to show you how this screen looks on my phone so that you can understand what I'm talking about. So now it's coming up. Okay, good. So I have the screen here. You can sign up, sign in with phone number. So the input number, this is the screen. All you have to do is input your phone number, and it's going to write there waiting to verify your phone number. So that is this screen. We're currently there. All we have in the screen is the Firebase Auth. So we initialize the Firebase Auth, and we call the phone number controller that I showed you previously some seconds ago. That is this class. So we call the class here in the input number screen. We now say, okay, we now initialize it, and we have the text editing controller, and I have a string. That string is called the verification ID and would be gotten from the phone number controller class. So going down, this is where we now send the logic here. Okay, but now I have to go down and tell you, if I click on the verify number, if you click on the button there that says verify number, all it does is calls in, you sign in with phone number. It calls this function. I showed you this function previously. It is inside the my phone controller. So using the instance of phone controller, we can call this function, and we pass in the necessary parameters. We pass in the phone number, and we pass in the Firebase Auth instance. Okay. So now, this is the OBX, Currently, what it does is that it's listening for changes in the phone controller class. You understand? I'll tell you more about the OBX here. So this is the OBX here. If you're using getX, you have to call this. All it does is that it listens for any update in the controller class, and it shows this update to the user. So if I input my phone number, I'm going to show you that. This is what the OBX does. When you input your phone number, it's going to listen for changes in the my phone controller, and if there is any change, it will show you. But first of all, they're going to tell you to verify you're not a robot. So you're going to verify you're not a robot here. So that's going to take a while. After this, okay, now it's soon. Oh, I think my phone number is wrong, so it will not show me any text field to put in the code. So initially, if the phone number is wrong, you have to make sure your number is correct. So if your number is correct, it will. So I wrote this in the previous video, so I'm just going through it again because I'm sure some of you did not understand. So this is the process I just used for my phone number authentication. So if you haven't watched my previous videos, go back and watch it. So it is not working here. I don't know why. Normally it should be working. Let me change the phone number. Okay, you see it works. So it now shows you the type verification code. You see this comes up if a code have been sent. So all you have to do is click the submit code, So I'll show you how this came up. This is done by the OBX here. So what the OBX does is that it would listen for the code that have been sent using the parameters we have in the class. So if there's a code sent to this my number, it's gonna say the phone number controller is gonna listen code sent. If the code sent result is yes, that means okay, a code have been sent. So it's listening to that variable here. It's listening to this variable here. So when there is a code sent, this variable will be updated. So when this variable is updated inside the code sent here, you see the variable is here. The variable is updated. So by the code sent, if the code is sent, this variable changes to yes. But initially it's no. So if it is yes, it's listening. If it is yes, it's going to return to you a column. You see, this column here will be returned to you by the widget by the OBX, or else it will return a text telling you waiting to verify your phone number. So that is it. That is just it by the OBX. The OBX listens to the controller and it gets the output. So now I'm going to write my code, the code I got. When I write it, it's going to take me inside the app. So that is just it. That's all I did to get my phone number. But in this video, we'll be talking about how do you retrieve your data from the Firebase. I'm going to show you how I did that. I'm going to show you how I retrieved my data from the Firebase, how I got it down into my app. So that is where we're going to start from. This was just an overview of what we did in the previous video. So I hope you guys are following. I hope you guys are understanding. If you haven't watched my other videos, please go back and watch it. And more videos will be coming up in this channel. So I would advise you subscribe and you stay tuned. Thank you. So now we're starting. with how we're gonna retrieve, and I'm gonna show you how to retrieve data from the Firebase. So to do that, we are going to, this is the console. You can see we have the field, here, we have the document, we have the collections, email, password. It's at the field side. So we have the document, which is the UID of the user. So for every user, it's gonna have a UID, and every UID is gonna have some fields in it. So as you see, a document, we have a field, we have a collection. So we're going to retrieve data from this, and we're going to show it to the user in the mobile app. So I know most of you know how to do this, most of you might not know how to do this, but if you want to really understand how it is done, please follow this tutorial carefully, because I will be explaining every single step. So to get started, I'm going to my Android Studio, and in my Android Studio, as you can see, I have here, this is what we did previously in the other video when I was saving the user data online, and I was also saving the user data offline synchronously. So this is what we did. If you did not watch the previous video on how to save a user data online and offline or synchronously, go back and watch it, because this is what we did. So right here in this video, still on Firebase, we're going to cover something different. But before we start, I think I should arrange this code. So I'm going to create a class here, and I am calling this class, I'm going to call it asynchronous. I'm calling it asynchronous. And in asynchronous class, we're going to have all this method we wrote from the previous video. So we can just copy all of these. If you haven't watched the previous video, go and watch it. I'm going to copy all of this, and we're going to paste it inside here. So this class asynchronous is going to handle every asynchronous operation that have to do with saving the user data online and saving the user data offline. So we're going to get rid of these. So now inside the asynchronous class, we have the 3 functions there. So what next are we to do? To proceed further, I'm going to go into this folder, into a directory, and in that directory I'm going to create a class, and I'm going to call that class asynchronous. But first of all, we're going to call the asynchronous class, then we call on the function, because we are going to need that. So now I'm going to create a folder called asynchronous. In that folder, I'm going to create a class. I'm going to call that class asynchronous. So the class now, I am calling it asynchronous, and in this asynchronous class we're going to have we're going to have everything here, everything we just did down here. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it in the asynchronous class. So I will copy it, and I'll go back to the asynchronous class, and I'm going to paste it in here. Alright, so now we have asynchronous class that contains different functions, but we're having some errors here showing us red line. That is because we are missing some import statements. So we have to import some libraries. So I'm going to copy all of these because I know I'm going to make use of this. Then I'm going to copy most of this import statement here. I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it up here in the asynchronous class. Though I'm not using all, I just copied it, you know. Yeah, so some errors are off. Let me get rid of this. Firestore, it's showing me red, I don't know why, but most errors are gone except the Firestore and except the JSON encode. So for this JSON encode, I'm going to import a library called the .convert, and for this Firestore I have to import the Firebase Firestore. So I will import it. To get rid of this, I'm going to import, where is the Firestore? So I'm going to import the Firestore here. I'm going to copy it and I'll paste it. Yeah. Okay. So now we have the Firestore here. I think the asynchronous function or the asynchronous class is okay. So right now, let me get rid of these import statements that we are not using. You know, most of these import statements we're not using it. I'm gonna get rid of it. Okay. I'm gonna get rid of this also. I'm gonna get rid of this import statement we're not using. Okay. So to proceed further, what I want to do is I want to retrieve the user data from the Firebase console into my mobile app. So in my profile section, in the profile section of my app, this is where we're going to show the user email. So I'm going to show you how I want to retrieve the email from the database, and with this procedure you can retrieve anything. So I want to retrieve this email here, so, and the password. So to do that, there are certain procedures to follow. That is what I want to show you in this video. So this is my profile class. I already designed it. So in my profile class, I'm going to create a function here. And I'm calling this function get user data. So this function will get the user data from the Firebase console, and when it gets the data, it will display on the mobile app for the user to see. So the get user here is going to take in a string, and this string is going to be the UID of the user, because we need the UID of that user. From their documents, we're going to access the user details using that UID. So we need the UID before we can access the user details. So I'm going to pass in the UID here. We're going to use it to access the user details. So we're passing in the UID. And then apart from the UID, we also need what we call a collection. Let me say collection result. Sorry, collection reference, I mean. So we're going to have a collection reference here, and I'm going to call it, I think I should call it collection or so, because the collection reference will reference the collection here, and then with that, from that collection, we're going to go reference the document, and then we're going to reference the field. So now we're going to call this users. It's showing me red because it's an error. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to import Firestore. Maybe because I did not import the Firestore, it's showing me red. So let me import Firestore, and I'm going to paste it here. So with this now, that error should go. I think the collection reference, okay, yeah, the error is gone, because we did not import the Firestore. So we have to import the Firestore in order to proceed with using it. So after importing the Firestore now, we want to get access to the collection here. So the collection, as you saw, is users. So we're going to call it collection node. So the collection node is going to reference the user collection. So it's going to reference the user collection. So we're going to say the collection node is going to be equal to the Firestore or the Firebase Firestore dot instance dot collection. So the collection here is going to be users, because that is the name of the collection we gave to it. So users is the name of the collection here. So you have your users. Okay, so inside the collection here we have users. So we're going through the users collection. So from the users collection now we have to go get the document. So the document now is the UID of the user. So for every user you're gonna have a different document. This document will be their UID, because every user must have a different UID. So a different UID, a different document. So we're going to access that document now by saying the collection node dot, I'm going to say document. So the document here is going to be the UID of the user. So you see this UID here, that is what the document is going to be. So we're going to have your document, the UID. The document here is going to be the UID of the user. So and we got the UID, we pass the UID into the function, and using that UID now we're going to access that document. So we're going to say document UID.get. What are we getting now? Let's make this function asynchronous first of all, and okay, we're going to return a feature. Okay, so now the function returns a feature, and it is now an asynchronous function. So we're going to say await here. Okay, so now we access the document, and now we are getting the data from that document. So this is simple. First of all, you have to understand the concept. It's actually really simple. So what next now? So we are going to now, the next thing to do after you make it asynchronous and you call the await, we're going to retrieve the information from that document. So this is how we retrieve the information from the document. To retrieve the information, we need, first of all, we have to call the data. Nope, it's not working. So let's do it this way. We're gonna say this is a map. Let's see if a map will work, because I can't actually really recall how I normally do that, but a map here is gonna work. So from a map we're getting, let's call it a map equal to, okay, nope, it's wrong. You see it's showing a red line, it's saying the document. Okay, so it's actually a document snapshot, not a map. Okay, yeah, so now it returns a document snapshot to you. We're calling it a document snapshot. A document snapshot here. Okay, that is the right thing to do. So we're gonna call this snapshot here. So the collection, when you call the UID, you call the get, it returns to you a document snapshot. So from this snapshot now, we're going to say snapshot, then we're gonna get the data from the snapshot now. So this snapshot data is now gonna be a map. So you see the snapshot data is gonna be a map. So we're saying the map here is a string, and it's also gonna be a dynamic here, and we're gonna call this map. So now this is right. So we're in the right step. We are actually going to the right destination, I should say. So what next are we to do? Using this map now, we're gonna get the email. So now how do we get the email from the map? You're gonna see it now too. So to get the email from the map, we're gonna use the map email. So if we go back to the console, you're gonna see, we click on the document, we have the email, we have the password. So the map here, we're gonna get the email, and we're gonna get the password here. So we're gonna call the string here, we're gonna call the string here is password. Okay, we're gonna get the map, and we're gonna get password. So this is how we get the email, get the password from the map. So what next are we to do? So we're just done. This is just basically what we need to do to get the user data from the database. So what next are we to do here? You're gonna see it now. We're gonna use the getX, right? So today we're gonna use getX to retrieve the information. So we're gonna call a class. This class is called the getUserController. So this getUserController is gonna extend the getX. I'm gonna say the get controller here. So that is it. So extending the get controller, we're gonna import the get library. So it's gonna say package get I'm gonna call get.die here. So we imported the getX library now. So doing that, this getX controller now, that should be the right spelling. We're gonna copy all the functions we wrote. We're gonna copy the function here, and we're gonna paste it inside the get user controller. So that is it. We're pasting it inside this class. So that way now we're gonna control everything using getX library. getX is actually a wonderful library. You will use it, you would love it because it's so cool. So I advise you go learn it or watch my videos, because I've done a lot of videos on getX, man, and these videos are wonderful for you guys. So now we're gonna get the email, because we're gonna get this email here. So we're also gonna get the password. So we're gonna say the string here is a password. We're gonna get this password here. It's also gonna be a string. So now we're getting it now. So we're gonna do something here. We have to make this email and password observable. So using getX, you can make a variable observable. So initially it's gonna be this Gmail and it's gonna be observable. And initially the password is just gonna be 1. But it's showing me a red line, so there is something wrong. There is something fishy here. So how do we do this? It's actually gonna be observable, yes. It's actually wrong here because they say the value. Okay, that is because this is a var. This should be a var. This is a var keyword. So changing this to var keyword because it's gonna be a reactive responsive variable. So now the initial password is going to be 1 2 3 4. So coming down here, we're going to say the email.value is going to be equal to the map, and the password.value is going to be equal to the map. So that is just how we initialize the variables in getX by using the observable. So now I'm going to create a class in the utils here, right? I'm going to call this directory, or this class, I'm going to call it the get user controller. The get user controller. So that is the name given to this class here. So most of you might be wondering, why am I calling it the get user controller? That is because this get user controller is a getX class that uses the getX controller, and it gets the data from the Firebase. It retrieves the data from the Firebase using the getX controller. So I call it the get user controller. So I'm gonna copy everything we wrote. I'm gonna copy every single thing we wrote, and I'm gonna take it back to the getX controller. You see, I'm gonna paste it here. So that is it. So now you see we're gonna import the getX. I'm gonna say import getX library. So that should take away the error. And I'm gonna import I'm gonna import the Firebase library here. I'm gonna import Firebase library here. So the Firebase library we're gonna import will be I'm gonna import the Firebase library. I'm gonna call the library. Let's see, where is it? I'm gonna use the Firebase Firestore. So we're almost done with our getX, and now what next are we to do? So coming back, I want to run the app so that you see it. So this is the app now. So when you click on, let me put my phone number. So when I click on verify number, it will actually work. We did all of this, everything you see here, we did it in the previous video. We did everything about the phone number authentication. So if you haven't watched it, go back and watch it, because I'm not gonna go back there. Okay. Okay, so the verification code is in. So now in this video, we're just gonna type the verification code here. I'm gonna submit it. But it's not working. It's showing me an error. So I think there is a little error with our previous phone number verification, that I think I changed the code and it gave me an error. So I'm gonna go back and fix it now. So follow me up as I'm gonna fix this error. Yeah. So the error is saying sign in with credentials was called on a no. Okay, so they're saying here sign in with credentials was called on a no. So I'm going back to my sign in page. I'm going back to my sign up page, and in my sign up page I have this here Firebase save. This is sign up user with email. Okay, this is not it. So I wear the path for phone number. I'm going to go to my input number because the error is coming from what we did previously. We actually, when you click the button here, so the error came from here. When you actually click the button, you see it actually says something. So now I'm looking for where exactly the error came from. So I go inside here. So the error is from inside our phone number controller, and in the phone number controller, if you check it, in my credentials here actually has 3 parameters. The my credential has a verification ID, it has a user input, but we forgot to put in the Firebase auth. So in my credentials, if you're following me, go back and make sure that you put my auth, and you're gonna call the Firebase auth that we initialize up here. So we're gonna call my auth here, and we're gonna pass in the Firebase auth here. So make sure you pass in all the necessary parameters, especially the Firebase auth, to your my credentials function, which is actually really necessary, or else it's gonna show you an error. So I've just passed it here, and now I'm going to run the app again, and this should work. Okay, so this is it now. So what I want to do is that I want to sign in with my phone number, and this time it should work because I just solved the error. So I'm going to say +234 00671 49975. I'm going to click verify. Okay, so now you see it works here. They've sent me the verification code. So now you can see the verification code shows up there. I'm just gonna input the verification code, and when I click submit code, it takes me inside the app. So inside the app now we have, this is where we want to work on. So in my profile tab here, I want to retrieve the data from the Firebase, and I want to display it here. So in my profile tab, I'm gonna display it down here. So that's what I'm trying to do here. So to do that, so guys, this is it now. As you can see, this is the app here. So if you look at my profile, down below my username, I want to put my email. So I am going to retrieve this email from the Firebase, and that is what I want to show you how to do. I'm going to retrieve this email from the Firebase so that you would see and understand. You get. So now let me show you. Let me do some things here. So we'll be retrieving this email from the Firebase. I'm going to display it under my username. So if you check now, this is the screen called the profile top. So the profile top contains my name. You can see there in the text widget here, you can see my name, Joseph the Floater Dave. So let me wrap this in. Okay, no, I shouldn't use this. I should use a column. I'm going to wrap this here with a column so that under the username, you can see the user email. So this here, this is the column here. I don't mean a container, sorry, it was a mistake. I'm going to wrap this with a column so that under the username, you can see the user, email. So you see here under, I'm going to copy this so that I'll just make use of it again instead of typing it. And under the username, you're going to see the user email. So that is it here. So now this will be my email. I'm going to show you. I'm going to write here email. So that is it now. So under the username, we have the email. Okay, that's cool. So we're going to wrap this with an OBX. And OBX is something that will be listening for changes in the getX controller class. So we're going to wrap this in an OBX widget so that it will listen to changes, you see. So now what it's going to listen to is, let me go back to this controller. It's going to be listening to this email variable here. See this, the getX controller here is going to be listening to this email variable. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to initialize, or I'm going to call here the getX, the get user controller, and it's going to be get user controller equal to get.put, and I'm going to put in the get user controller class. So you see here get.put, and I'm going to put in the get user controller class. So I'm going to say the get put, and I'm going to put in the get user controller, because it's using this controller we're going to get the email. So coming down to the email side, I'm going to change this here to be from the controller. So I'm going to say the get controller dot get, I'm supposed to get email. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to say a string. This email would be a string. So I'm going to say email result, and then email result, and I'm going to say email dot value. It's showing red because I forgot to put the get here. Okay, so another string here would be password results. I'm gonna say password dot value. Okay, so the get user controller would get the email, which is the email result. Okay, so that is it now. That is how we're gonna get the email from the controller here. So what next now? I think I should run the app to see if it works. Okay, so I just ran the app, and I'm gonna put in my phone number. I click on verify. So after verification, I get my code, and when I get my code, you see the code comes up. I'm gonna write it here. Then I'm gonna submit code. So I come inside the app now, and inside the app I'm going down. Okay, I see it's getting the wrong, it's getting the it's not getting the Gmail, it's getting the initial value, it's not getting the email. I wonder why. So because if you go here, if I go back here, you're gonna see that the initial value we gave to the email is what is showing us here. It's showing us the no gmail.com, meaning that it's giving us this initial value here. So from the get user data, I'm checking why this might be happening. Okay, do you know why? The problem was that we did not call this method here. What do you call this method? The get user data. So this method was not called. So I am going to call this method now, so that immediately you open the app, the function will be triggered. We forgot to actually trigger the function, so I want to trigger it now. The get the get user details. So I think I'll do it inside the build method. So inside the build method here, we're going to call the get user controller dot, and I'm going to put get user data, because we did not call this method. So if you do not call this method, the function won't trigger, and also you will not get your Gmail. So I'm going to call this method here, but first of all, I'm going to need a Firebase auth. I'm going to use this Firebase auth now to get my user ID, my UID, because that UID is necessary. So to get the user ID, you have to call the Firebase auth. So I'm gonna import let me copy it from somewhere, the import statement. I'm gonna import this, and I'll put it so let me get this out, because I think I just copied it rather than typing it again. I'm just gonna copy it from okay. So now I have the Firebase auth, and I also need the import statement. So import Okay, that is it now. So in here, using that, I'm going to get my user. So I'm getting the user from the Firebase auth. I'm going to say user Firebase auth dot get user or current user. So that way I can get my user ID. I'm going to say the user ID now will be user dot UID. Okay, so that is it now. So inside the get user data, I'm going to say UID. And also I need a collection. What is that? I need a, what do you call it? This collection. Let me go back. I need to check it out. It's going to be collection. I've forgotten what I call this. This variable here, it was collection reference, right? Okay, so I need a collection reference, and I'm calling this collection reference. So there is no need to initialize it because I think I initialize it inside the function. So we'll just say collection. If you go back to the function, you see this is a collection reference, and it was initialized inside the function there. So I'm going to say collection reference, and I'm just going to pass it inside here. I'm going to pass my collection reference here. Okay. So that is it. I think it's showing me something. I need to put, I forgot to put something here. So let me see. Await. Will await work? No. Let me get rid of this await statement because I don't need it. Hot restart. This is hot restart error because I did not put my my comma here. I need to put a comma there so now I can run the app. And I'm gonna use my password. So if I sign up to the app now, I need to come into the app, and if you come to the app, you see here that is my email showing down there. So that is the email I just retrieved now from the database, and you've seen how I did that. So this is just a brief series. So in the next video, we'll be talking about how to upload your image. We're going to upload an image to the database, and we're going to retrieve it here. So I'll figure out to upload image to the cloud Firestore storage, and we're going to retrieve the image on a profile picture.